years old when I saw a jewelry heist. Not a movie, a real jewelry heist. It was 1991, and I worked at the Walden Books in North Kent Mall in a suburb of Grand Rapids, Michigan. The bookstore was on the Montgomery Ward's side of the mall, with the other anchor store being a Kmart. Now at the time, North Kent Mall was faltering, but not dying like the malls we see today. There were no empty storefronts, not yet. And the fountain in the middle of the mall still ran water. But some nights I could go to the bookstore entrance and look down the empty corridor and see only another store clerk looking back at me. At the time, people just liked shopping at the other mall up the street, Woodland Mall, which is bigger and had more fancy anchor stores. So one slow evening, I was standing at the register by the entrance when I heard a woman shout, "Help! Stop! Thief!" And it was coming from the jewelry store, which was kitty corner from the Walden Books. I saw a man dressed in a long black coat running as fast as he could towards the mall exit that led to the employee parking lot. Now, I have no real memories of what this thief looked like. My mind decided that he looked like the actor Ted Levine, who's actually, he's the serial killer, James Gumb, in the movie Silence of the Lambs, which came out that year. So I thought I heard coins clinking on the granite floor as he ran. The clerk from the jewelry store, this tall blonde named Luann, she's holding her eye as she stood at the store's entrance, pointing after him as security guards zipped by. But the thief was gone. Behind the employee parking lot was a small but bushy ravine. On the other side was a suburban neighborhood. The thief jumped into the ravine and disappeared. I later learned that the thief, we'll call him Ted, walked into the jewelry store where Luann was working by herself. He seemed friendly initially. He asked to see engagement rings and pointed to the two most expensive trays of rings in the case. Luann pulled out the first tray, which contained 24 rings, and set it on the counter. "Can we see both?" Ted asked. Luann explained that she could only show him one at a time. And he leaned in and was pointing at one of the rings, and she leaned in to see what he's looking at, and he punched her in the face, grabbed the tray, and ran. The problem is, Ted held the tray on its side as he ran. So as he was running, all the rings fell out and scattered along the corridor. Now later, mall security closed the hallway and they swept the floor to look for rings. And they recovered almost all of them except for 4. Now I watched as they closed the jewelry store, as mall security waited with Luann for the police to arrive. She had an ice pack on her face. And towards closing, my friend Christopher, he came into Walden Books to visit me, and I told him about the robbery. And his blue eyes grew wide, and he's like, "I'll be right back." And he went to the employee parking lot to see if he could find any of those rings. Now, a little about me and Christopher. He came into my life when I was in a teenage rebellion. When I was 17, things were quietly bad at home. I had always been the good girl, but from 15 on, I couldn't do anything right. Not school, not after school activities, so I gave up. I stopped studying, I cut classes, I hung out with Christopher. Christopher was 16 and he had his own troubles, but we escaped with each other. And we were the children of the 1980s. We were living in a material world and we were material people. We believed in I shop, therefore I am. Our wallets didn't match what we wanted as a lifestyle, so Christopher had a habit where stuff would fall into his pockets. And I didn't care. To me, he was a good person. He accepted me. Now, naturally, the stolen rings became a regular conversation with us. Christopher and I would sneak out of school for lunch, go to a nearby diner where we drink coffee, eat Texas toast, smoke, and talk about those missing rings. The police never caught Ted. We wondered, did Ted get away with those 4 rings, or were they lost? Stuck in the mud at the bottom of the ravine, or stuck in shrubs? What would we do if we found a ring? And Christopher and I mused, hawk it, naturally, and then go clothes shopping, travel the country, buy jewelry. We had the imaginary money spent 7 ways until Sunday. But then again, maybe we would keep a ring, Christopher suggested. Wouldn't it be funny to have an engagement ring with an interesting backstory? Now, what's weird about that heist is that the next day I went about my life as normal. School, sneak out for lunch, work. It was a blip on the radar. The mall, high school, Christopher, even the quiet, troubling thing at home seemed more solid. And I moved through that world without realizing how impermanent it all was. Later, less than a year later, Christopher and I had a fight right before I left for college, and we would stop speaking. I hurt him. And when we met again as adults, he was friendly, but something was lost. The mall would live through the 1990s until 1 or 2 stores remained. Montgomery Ward's and Kmart, 2 retail monoliths, closed. Eventually, Walden Books would be bought by Borders Books and then succumbed to Amazon. In the 2000s, the mall would be partially demolished. I remember seeing that and thinking, permanence is an illusion. I often wonder, did Luann keep selling jewelry? Did Ted remain a thief? Or was he sitting on a bar stool somewhere like this, regaling the people around him about the time he robbed a jewelry store and lost all the rings? Could be, but downstairs. To me, that time feels like that heist. I can punch impermanence in the eye, grab what I can and try to run, seeking sanctuary in those golden, sparkling moments. But they'll fall away, irretrievable, but always on my mind. Thank you.